eager to continue. I'd like to remind you that we are in Ukraine Media Center. And our next speaker is Oleksandr Motuzyanyk from the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, and he'll tell us about the current situation all across Ukraine. You're welcome, Oleksandr. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to offer current information about situation as of noon today, 17th of March. This has been the 22nd day of the heroic resistance of the Ukrainian nation against the Russian military invasion. Russian terrorist troops continue their attempts of their attack against Ukraine. The enemy tries to get to administrative boundaries of Luhansk and Donetsk provinces. However, they have not been successful in those attempts. In order to restrict and contain the Ukrainian troops, the enemy is trying to block villages and towns to the north of the capital city. At the same time, Russian occupation forces don't stop their bomb and missile strikes against civilian infrastructure sites in Lviv, Ivano-Frankivsk, Dnipro, and a number of other provinces where active ground combat operations do not take place. In Volyn area, we have seen that Russian troops have been using the territory and infrastructure of the Republic of Belarus. This is done in order to strike Ukraine and in order to provide logistical support to the Russian invasion forces in Polissa direction. But with regard to the probability of direct engagement of some units of Belarusian military on the Russian side is still not zero. In Polissa area, the enemy tried to get the positions they previously lost as a result of successful operations of Ukrainian armed forces, but in that area the invaders did not succeed. Instead, they have been losing their personnel and equipment. Russian invaders tried to regroup their troops and to establish logistical support. In Siversk area, in the last day, Russian troops did not try any active attack. They have been preparing to renew attacking and further blocking Kyiv from northeastern direction. The enemies have been shelling chaotically at the positions of Ukrainian armed forces and trying to do some reconnaissance. In Slobozhanщina area, invaders tried to move forward, but they have not succeeded. So the enemies have been trying to fortify their positions and to improve their logistical support. Also, according to our information, Russian invaders have been strengthening their troops using additional units of the 1st Tank Brigade and Coast Guard units of Baltic Fleet, from Baltic Sea. In Donetsk and Tavria directions, the enemy tried to attack in the area of city of Rubizhne. They tried to keep the western and northwestern part of the city and move to its southwestern part. In Popasna and Volnovakha area, there have been failed attack operations, assault operations of the enemy near Verkhnetoretsk and Marinka. Having incurred losses and withdrawing, the enemy has been regrouping their troops and refilling their supplies. In Mariupol area, they continue to attack the city. In Zaporizhia area, there have been no active attacking operations from the invaders. In South Bug area, they have been doing reconnaissance and fortifying their positions. Also, Russian invading forces tried to attack in Kryvyi Rih direction, but they have not succeeded generally there, and they try to strengthen their positions. In Tavria direction, the enemy tried to continue to increase logistical support for their troops. In particular, according to our information, in Jankoy airfield, they deployed the location to collect their broken equipment. the total combat losses of the enemy from February 24 to this day, March 17, have been tentatively as follows. Personnel, about 14,000 people died. 444 tanks. 1,435 infantry fighting vehicles. 201 artillery systems. 72 Grad missile systems. 43 air defense systems. 86 aircraft, 108 helicopters, 3 ships and boats, and UAVs of the operational and tactical level, 11 drones, 11 UAVs, as well as other special equipment, 10 pieces of that. Dear friends, the commanding Office of the Armed Forces of Ukraine asks the press to limit as much as possible distribution of personal data, photos that show faces of our commanders, our officers, geolocation information, address information about our troops. Please do not provide information about exact location of bomb shelters in your media, so where civilians are hiding, so that it would be more difficult for our enemies to get information from open sources to carry out missile and bomb strikes against civilian infrastructure. That's basically all the information. Thank you for attention. Glory to Ukraine. Thank you, Oleksandr, for this information. Dear friends, if you have questions, please, you're welcome.
Tim Judah from The Economist and Financial Times of London. Could you update us on the situation in Irpin and Bucha and military operations there? Have the lines changed? Change in the last 24 hours, 48 hours, what I mean.
Thank you. The general situation over the last day, in the last day, I would like to emphasize, there have been no significant changes. The situation at the outskirts of Kyiv, in particular in Hostomel, Bucha and Irpin directions, is at the moment also without any changes. At the same time, Ukrainian armed forces carry out special operations.
About air attack against Kyiv. How many air attack happening every day, like missiles or that kind of things, and what is the response from your side, and can you give some estimate numbers about this?
Thank you. As all of us can see, even though the Russian Federation states that bomb strikes and missile strikes are only aimed at military infrastructure, actually the enemy also uses artillery cartridges and missiles against residential blocks and places where innocent civilians live. At the same time, air defense forces in Kyiv are always on high alert, and every now and then they down enemy's missiles. You can see it also on the news and open sources where their fragments fall down. Unfortunately, some buildings are destroyed, sometimes there are fire, and unfortunately we have had losses among local civilians. Again, this is a war crime. This is a war crime, and there is nothing like that on the global scale, and that's in that way Russian Federation commits their crimes.
Second question is about especially in Bucha and Irpin areas. We have heard that, like, you said that there's no significant change, but in city center, Ukrainian forces start to have offensive. They are trying to take some position over there. Is this true? And if there was some offensive attack, what is the aim? Like, control the city at least, or push them how far?
Thank you. I got your question. I'd like to emphasize the following. Again, we cannot speak openly about all special operations carried out by units and special units of the armed forces of Ukraine. This area is of special importance that the outskirts of Kyiv, and in order to further strengthen the defense of the capital city of Kyiv, Ukrainian armed forces make every effort possible to prevent the enemy from attacking from that direction too. I'm Viktor Melnikov from CGTN. Could you please clarify, with regard to my colleague's question, could you please clarify, since Monday, how many missiles, rockets fall down on residential buildings? Missiles, fragments of missiles and rockets down by targeted by air defense and so on. And how many people have died and have been wounded since Monday, and how many strategic facilities have been hit in Kyiv? Thank you. Thank you, France. I don't have statistics starting from Monday, but we are talking about several cases where missiles would hit residential blocks. One of such examples of such cases happened several days ago when a missile hit by air defense fell down in Podil district in the city of Kyiv. One person died there and there was a fire and destruction. About military facilities, again, we cannot share that information openly at the moment. We should understand that if you do it, if you share that information, it would enable the enemy to improve the precision of their operations. You all know that most of intelligence is collected from open sources, so all that information published in open sources in the media is also studied by the enemy, so let us not help the enemy in that.
In London, there has been much talk in the last week that the Russian forces are about to start their siege of Kyiv, their attempt to control Kyiv. Does he think that that is still going to happen, and are they still capable of doing so?
Thank you. I'd like to emphasize again that cities like Kyiv, Kharkiv, Mariupol, Mykolaiv are very important in that assault operation, attacking operation by the Russian, offensive operation by the Russian Federation. Almost in all those cities, the enemy makes no success and they cannot get those cities. And for that reason, they start terrorist actions. They start just chaotically, imprecisely shelling those cities from their artillery and with their missiles. I would like to emphasize that there is still a probability that the enemy would try and attack the capital city itself, but I'd like to reassure you that the defense of the city of Kyiv is a strategic duty for the whole nation, because Kyiv is the capital city of Ukraine, and there are the very best units of the land forces, paratroopers and special forces